So today we're going to be doing a Harbor Freight ratchet review. So here we have our ratchets that we have purchased. Here is our snap-on. I'd like to say it's a good ratchet, but I don't have it.
I'm sure it is.
I'm sure it's a great ratchet. It runs about $128.50. And as you can see, it's not here. The next in line, we have the Icon ratchet, which is conveniently sealed in a box. So we're going to run this one against the other various Harbor Freight ratchets. So the next one in line is the $18.99 Pittsburgh Pro, which is roughly equivalent to the snap-on ratchet. Next one in line is the composite Pittsburgh Pro, which again is roughly equivalent. The next one in line is the Pittsburgh, which is not a Pro, however it still has a lifetime warranty. Socket set, so it's the ratchet plus all the sockets, and you get the pretty good bang for your buck with that one. Then the next one in line is the $16.99 Pittsburgh Pro swivel head ratchet. So that one's kind of the oddball out here. The rest of them are roughly equivalent, with the exception of that one and the snap-on, because it's non-existent. So let's get started. So here we have our Icon ratchet at our little test bench for ratcheting. Ironically, the first one we had, the on and off switch would flip back and forth right out of the box. Don't really know why. Hopefully it's a fluke. But we went back to Harbor Freight and swapped it out with their lifetime warranty, and here's the next one. Put it out of the box, you immediately notice it comes with its own little microfiber towel for cleaning it. And it's mostly the same design as the other ones, just a little bit different with the stampings and the color scheme. But without further ado, let's try it. So, Icon isn't too bad. One thing to notice about the Icons is it's actually a 90 tooth design, so the 90 teeth allows you to get a shorter turning angle on it. So if you have a more difficult to reach bolt, you can actually get a slightly shorter turn on it, which lets you get those real tight bolts, whereas some of the other ratchets might not, because you'll have to turn it further to get it to engage those teeth. So far the Icon seems pretty decent. Just to show you what I'm talking about though, on the turning angle, if you watch closely before it engages the tooth, that's how far it takes to engage a tooth. So and the box says it's about 4 degrees. Not too bad on the Icon. Okay, so here we got the Pittsburgh, which is a very similar design to the Icon. Man, they sound similar, don't they? Snap-on, Icon. Anyways, so it's also the flat design for the back of it, which is supposed to let you get a little bit tighter spaces, preventing the actual release from getting hit and knocking the socket off. So let's go ahead and ratchet this down. Immediately you'll notice the fact that it's a lot louder. I don't know if that's important to anybody in general. You'll notice though, the engagement distance for the teeth is a little bit longer, but not really noticeably so. So is the 90 tooth the better design? Maybe. Is it a hoax? I don't know. So let's move on to the composite Pittsburgh. This is the composite Pittsburgh ratchet. You'll notice that the actual handle on it is black, and that's because it's composite plastic design instead of a full metal design. Now, the aesthetics of this is a little bit better looking to me because once you get using your ratchets, they get greasy. And what hides grease better? Black. I mean, it's the color of grease. You'll also notice that this actually has the traditional push button release design instead of the slim design. So again, that's depends on your application, but can be worse for letting your sockets go in tight scenarios. I've never really seen an issue with that, but that's, again, my opinion on that one. Let's go ahead and tighten this. And if you'll notice, again, the engagement distance is about the same as the other one. So it's not a huge difference between this one and the Icon one. I actually almost prefer the Pittsburgh's sound. But again, that's not really a measure of performance on a ratchet, it's just more preference. So that's the Pittsburgh composite. I can only imagine that there might be a slight issue with potentially the composite design being more prone to bending or shattering potentially, but it depends on how they exactly made it. Now this one looks exactly like the first two, except green. This is the standard Pittsburgh ratchet from the Ratchet set. The one difference that you'll notice between this one and then the highest one, the Icon one, is the use of the push button design, and that I guess is exclusive to the Pittsburgh Pros and the Icons. I haven't seen them in the standard Pittsburghs, but again, I don't see much of a difference. Yeah. Interestingly enough, this one actually has a very distinct sound from the other two. Well, actually the other three. You can hear it right there. The sound is a little more toned down, I think. And it's the same tooth design, so I'm not exactly sure why that would be, but it's a pretty decent ratchet, to be honest. I kind of like this one. It incorporates a lot of the first, well, two Pittsburgh ones that I did previously, so it takes the push button design of the composite one plus the full metal of the slim one. I actually kind of like this one. Anyway, so that's been the standard Pittsburgh ratchet from the Ratchet set. Not just the ratchet, the set. So let's move on to the last one. So here's the last one we're going to look at, which is the Pittsburgh Pro swivel head. So this one's pretty unique in the fact that it can actually be used almost like a screwdriver, ratcheting a screwdriver. Again, a similar design but not the same. It uses a completely different handle, and then it also has a split shaft design, which is kind of interesting. Not exactly sure why they use that, but I guess it's probably for the flexing of it. This one also has the push button for the locking feature.
Wow.
Well then.
Good and fancy.
Ain't that nifty?
That's pretty fancy you're doing there.
And then you can just do that.
Why do you need a ratchet? Why don't you just get a breaker bar?
Fine. And it has a very similar tone to it compared to the other standard Pittsburgh, which shares the same color handle. This one's the Pro, oddly enough, so that one's it's a standard Pittsburgh, so it has a very similar sound to it, though. Same 72 tooth design. It's very distinct. This one's a bit more out of the box than the other ones in general, which is quite a nice design. As far as usability goes, it's probably one of the higher ones. But that has been the swivel head Pittsburgh Pro. So let's get into the next thing. So this one's a pretty subjective test, very definitive in its nature. We're going to see how far we can throw them, and I think that'll be the telltale sign of which one's the best ratchet. Take it how you will.
Jeez, really? That's how you're gonna throw it?
Well, that was yours.
Oh, yeah?
So mine's got to win.
Oh, I see. All right. So. And it didn't. Okay, so.
So it's definitive. The standard Pittsburgh non-composite is the better ratchet.
Flies farther.
Flies further. So some interesting things to note, though, about a few of these ratchets. The Pittsburgh Slim, composite, and standard all share the same ratcheting mechanism. If you look at the face of them, they have the exact same mechanism. Versus, if you look at the Icon, it's a completely different mechanism face. It's actually more of an oval face, and those have a double circle kind of looking face. I know it's a real technical way of looking at it, but it is a good it's a good way to signify that these are two different mechanisms inside, which would explain it because this is the 90 tooth and this is the 72 tooth. All three of those are, so makes sense. Now, this one is a completely different mechanism, you can see, which kind of explains its unique sound too. Although we also vote this one most likely to break, just because of its design. Now, it's probably the coolest and hippest of them, but it's most likely to break. It's not one of those that you can put a whole lot of torque on, because if you look at the way the swivel works, it's got a pin that goes through the mechanism, and so that's probably the weakest point on it, and that's most likely why it's got a flex, a slit for it to flex, so that that pin doesn't shear off at any point. But I'm just an engineer, what do I know? In conclusion, all of these ratchets are pretty good. I would say if you like the flashy looks of the Icon, save your money and buy the $18.99 Pittsburgh Pro. It looks exactly the same, except it doesn't say Icon. The 90 tooth design sounds nice on paper, and I'm sure it might have its advantages at some point, but for standard use, the 72 tooth design is okay. I definitely wouldn't go for like a snap-on, because that's it. With the lifetime warranties on these, you can take them back just like we did with the Icon and get a replacement, and it's just completely free. Now I will say this: the biggest bang for your buck would probably be this full socket set with a very similar ratchet to the other ones. It has the green handle design and doesn't say the word Pro, so I know that makes it an inferior product, but it seems like it's a pretty good one. As far as aesthetics go, I like the composite design, although I could see it potentially having some disadvantages later on down the line. But that's an opinion.
The Icon out of the box failed. It was basically a $40 ratchet. Right out of the box, it failed. So we took it back, like he said, no hassle. They gave us another one. Now, granted, any tool, any company, any item can fail out of the box. That's just a quality, it's not even a quality control problem. It's just, it happens sometimes. So we're not holding that against the Icon at all. My take on it is the Icon has the 90 tooth, and it's a little more, it's not as manly as the other ratchets.
I agree.
I think that's what you're thinking. And because when you turn a ratchet, you want to hear it clicking, and the Icon's just a tick, 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 and everything else is a nice little ratchet sound. It's a little thing, not a big deal, but personally, I'd rather take and buy two of the others before I paid for one of the Icons. Just, you can always use two ratchets. The Icon, he got me the Icon for Christmas, so that's why we bought it. We don't typically buy the higher end stuff because, shoot, we go to Harbor Freight every weekend anyways. So, because there's always a new sale on the weekend. So, and we are Harbor Freight guys. If you look around our shop, there's a Harbor Freight toolbox. There's a Harbor Freight hose reel. There's a Harbor Freight electrical reel. There's actually the shops in the light are from Harbor Freight. The LED shop lights for $19.99 or whatever. So we are a Harbor Freight shop. Should you spend more on tools? If you're a professional mechanic, absolutely. If that's your bread and butter, absolutely. If you have a car that has to be done by this afternoon and you are, you know, your salary depends on whether you get that vehicle out, you want the very best tools you can get. If we break a tool, we can take it back to Harbor Freight, they'll give us a new one, and we can finish our project up the next day or the next weekend. Not that imperative that we finish things up.
As always, we will see you all in the next video. And if you want to see more videos like this, maybe tool reviews or something like that, comment it down below and tell us. We're open to any really suggestions. So, as always, we will see you all in the next video. Bye-bye!